Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
I'm Jenifer Rose.
And you're listening to the midweek version of the Fiber Talk twice weekly podcast for needlework people.
Yay.
Tonight, Orna Willis is going to join us. I am pretty excited about this. So we talked to Orna Willis 3 weeks ago, just before Christmas. It was the third time that I'd done a show with her. One of my favorite people, just a tremendous designer. Go back and listen to that one. Well, we're going to have her on Wednesday night to show us and talk about various of her designs. And when it comes to charted canvas stuff, she's very unique. Her designs are very unique. Her colors, as we talked about in the podcast in December, her color choices, the texture she puts into them, the whole bit. So we're going to get to talk to her live on Wednesday tonight, and 8 o'clock Eastern time. So join us for the Stitch Hour for that. That'll be great. Yeah. And she has a class coming up. The deadline was Monday, but I think she's going to extend it for us with Shining Needle Society on Fields of Gold, and we'll talk about that one in the show. So I'm not sure details. I think I talked her into extending the deadline so that people could get in after the show. So
right.
We'll see how that goes. But anyway, join us tonight for Orna Willis. Just a tremendous lady, tremendous talent, and you'll really see some really impressive charted canvas work if you've never looked at her stuff. It's just brilliant. Yep. Yay.
Yeah.
Now,
beautiful.
We have the Springhill Stitch Along that we started on the 1st that I have done 0 stitching on, but we'll be doing that soon. I'm locked into Hannah Longstreth. I want that done. And I can, you know how you can see the end?
Oh, yeah.
And
nothing else exists.
Yep, that's right. And that's where I'm at right now. Nothing exists. I want that done. But I got to start working on Springhill. So check that out at wetalkfiber.com/Springhill. If you want to get in on it, you can get in on it. Stitch along. It's going to take a while. It's a big piece. Going to take a while. So get in on it. And 4 different kits, the Sullivan kit that Karen Kluba put together, and then what Jenifer, Beth, and I are doing. And you're making nice progress. And, and once again, DMC, we get all wrapped up in silks, and then you went the DMC route. And what is your kit? Like $40 or something like that?
46, I think, or something.
Yeah, something like
that. Without, not including the chart.
Right. So you get, if you do the DMC, it's 40 or 46, and $17 for the chart. And you can do the Springhill thing. So that's not, that's cheap. I mean, that's that's a really good price. But your stuff, oh man, well, your stitching is excellent anyway, but
thank you.
It really, the pictures you've shown of that center band, wow. It's like, what am I messing with silk for?
And it's I did decide to do 2 strands. I tried the 2 out, the 1/2 on the 37 count, and then the 2/2. And I wanted for this to be full coverage, no linen seam behind.
Yeah.
And it really pops out. And I was doing the green at first, and it looked like green velvet. Because the way it was, it just looked so pretty. I really like it. And now I'm finally getting into some of the pink flowers. So I'm finally stitching with pink. I love pink.
Yeah. Well, and you did that test. You posted a picture because you did the test, which is what everybody should do to determine coverage. You did 1 strand over 2 and 2 strands over 2 on the side there. And then posted it, and people could look at it, and it was like night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, there's no question. Like, why would you even do 1 strand? Yeah.
Yeah. Because, this piece has a lot of full coverage. And if you really want the colors to pop, unless you want it muted, maybe you like that. But, if you don't have the full coverage, then the linen will pop through. And it might even give you an uneven tone. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
But you nailed it. Yeah. Yours is, right out of the gate. It's beautiful.
My thanks. Really and it's kind of cool because once you get going, if, I do all of the whole band, I'm doing all of one color. and then I'll go and I'll take the next color and I'll do the next one. And so you do the little elements as they go along.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of like on this one little pink flower thing I'm doing now, I don't even have to look at the pattern. I just kind of glance at it to make sure, but I know the pattern of the flower.
Yeah.
Because you do it 8 times, and once you get down 2, you're good.
So you're just motoring right along then. Just
right.
Sit there and fly. Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
So.
And she does such a nice job with her charts too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We talked about this on the Wednesday show here a couple of weeks ago. She focuses on making sure that the symbols are all very different. And
yes, that is so helpful, because there are some where it's like, man, that's where I'm glad I have my iPad now, so I can go in, and put it in my iPad and then put it in books. And then you can use the pencil and you can like make colored dots on them, because some of them are so close, your eyes go crazy.
Yeah. Yep. And
so I'll make like a little dot on all the same symbol. And then once I get done with that, I erase it and then I make dots on it. It takes 5 minutes. It doesn't take that long.
But okay, 5 minutes up front. And how much time does it save you, and how many rip outs does it save you?
Tons.
Yeah.
Tons.
So that 5 minutes is time well spent. Yeah.
Because then you can also see where the color chunks are and make your path.
Yes. Yep.
Because I'm a stitch path follower kind of.
Yep. Me too.
I plan my path.
Me too. I think it's important.
It is.
I think you should sit down. I mean, I do it before I tackle each area. I sit down and I mentally figure out, all right, here's where I'm going to go, and this is how I'm going to get there. And on Hannah Longstreth, there's all these little bushes with branches, and it's all this 835 NPI 835. I'm so sick of NPI 835, but you figure out the path, and so like, all right, I'm going to start this one at the bottom, and I'm going to go up, and then this branch over here, I'm going to single cross all the way out to the end, and then come back, because I know the thread will last. And then, all right, I'm halfway through the thread and I come to this leaf. I'm just going to full exit all the way out and then end the thread, no matter what it is. I think that's critical. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I learned early on that you may think, like, say there's a big kind of a solid area with little dots of color, like an apple tree, So one time I started, and I was like, way back when I first started, I was like, oh, the apple tree, I'll do all the little apples first. So because then you're going to cover up the carries with the green, right? But then you have nowhere to easily anchor your apples, right?
Yep.
So then I kind of learned, and I know you can do, but I didn't know pin stitch and all that back then. So now I think I do the big chunks first. What's the big chunk of color, so that I look at where I can anchor things. I also take that into account.
Yep.
As to what's going to be anchored where, and what order should I do it in so that it's easiest for the anchoring, and am I going to carry? And if I carry a long way, a lot of times I'll flip it over on the back and I'll go under the other crosses.
Yes.
To kind of, you bury it under, but I don't cut it off. I just bury it under.
Right.
And then do it, So.
Oh yeah, I do that.
Depending on how long the carry is.
If I decide to do a long carry, I definitely do that exact thing. I bury it under some threads, because the last thing I want is the framer to snag it.
Right.
And
or you to snag it while you're working on it.
Right. So no, I do that. Yeah, it's worth the trouble. Yep.
Yeah, but I do that with the stitch path and all that. Yeah, and it's kind of fun. It's a good mental exercise.
Oh yeah, when it comes to carries, you try not to do more than 2 stitches, I guess it is, whatever the general rule of thumb is. But if I'm going to carry a distance, before I do that, I'll evaluate, all right, how much thread will I use to end it here and start it over here?
Yep.
And if it's, and then I might as well just carry it.
Right. Because sometimes you use more thread ending off and starting than you do if you just carry it.
Right.
I do the same thing. I'm like, okay, now how much thread? And that's such a long carry. You might as well just cut it off, because you're going to use more thread carrying.
Right.
I think about that too.
Yeah. And then, and if you carry it and it's going to be covered, then so what? Or you can bury it either way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or you strategically jump around the back. I've done that too. If it's like a really hard area, I don't know. I've done that. Sometimes I'll just be lazy and be like, Or you start at one area where it's difficult, and then you move your way over to an area where it'll be easy to tie off.
Yes.
Especially if you're doing 2 strands and you're going to loop it, you can do the loop method.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I was going to ask you, I'm glad you got back to that, to this 2 strands. So I was going to ask you what techniques you're using with 2 strands on 37 count. I assume you're loop starting, and then are you railroading, or are you just letting it go?
I've never railroaded. I never knew what that was until I started watching Floss Tube. I never knew that people had a problem with white. I didn't know that was an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've never had a problem. So when I start my threads, okay, I get a big old long piece of thread, and I get like maybe sometimes almost a yard if I'm going to double it. Mm-hmm. What I do is I pull it out, right? You grab one little bit and you pull it out and let it all wrinkle up at the bottom. Whoop, and you straighten it out.
Do you have to make that sound?
I do.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering.
Since you can't see me doing it with my hands like I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
So then I take the middle of the thread and I hold it up in the air and I let the ends dangle down and I do the untwisting because they untwist.
Yep.
They go blue, 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 blue. Then I grab at the bottom, I grab the 2 tippies together and make sure that I don't twist the threads together. And then I usually lick it and feed it through my needle. Mm-hmm. And then pull it up and I make sure it all stays just so. I don't start off with my threads all twisted up and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if a lot of people pay attention to that or not. Because if you're having trouble with your threads constantly crossing, well, then maybe you're not straightening them out before you start.
Mm-hmm. That could be.
And then as you stitch, there is some twisting that happens, but every time before, like I look at my needle and I don't let it twist a lot. Mm-hmm. And I can see a twist, and if I see how a twist is going, I'll kind of like loop my needle around the thread one way or another to undo that twist as I pull it through.
Okay.
But I've never done that I didn't know that. I was like, what are they talking about? I had no idea what that railroading thing was. I had to look it up because I had no clue. And I was like, why is everybody having a problem with white? I don't understand. Because, I've done all of those Paula Vaughns have a ton of white because there's all those curtains. They've always got curtains and quilts, tons of white and ecru and light colors. And I always loved it. I always started with the white. That was always my favorite thing, was to start with the white. And it was I loved it.
Yeah, I like doing white. I like you doing white things, white thread. I don't know, it's something about the cleanliness and the brightness of it, and any
like
colors that you put
off.
In. Yeah. I just always have. Yeah, always have. Yep.
Yeah, and then sometimes if I have a fresh piece of thread and it's really long, I'll start with the loop method. But if it's shorter, and I look at my motif and I'm like, okay, if I divide this and use only half the thread and loop it again, then I'm going to have to like start and stop twice during the motif. But if I use it together as it is now, I just put a little knot in the end and then do an away knot where I just, say 3 or 4 stitches away.
Right.
And then I get going over it and then I clip it off and then just cover it.
Yeah.
So I will look at it and decide if I can finish the motif or, whether or not I'm going to divide that thread back up into 2 smaller pieces or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. See, when I do that with 2 strands, which I try to avoid, then, like if I have a big length left when I'm, when I end off a section, if I have a big length of left that is now going to be 2 strands, I just throw them away. Just throw them away. I'm terrible.
No way. That is so wasteful.
I know. And that's what I do. Yeah.
See, us people who used to be really poor, we don't do that.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just, I just feel like, all right, those threads have been worn enough. I'm going to get fresh threads for the next section. So I just do it.
See, mine don't get that worn, but I pull them through. Like when I pull a long piece through, I hold it up so it doesn't twist on itself. Also, I don't let the thread twist on itself. I hold it as it goes through, and then I hold it underneath too. Yeah. And that reduces a lot of knotting.
Yeah.
And stuff. I don't let it twist. Now, I did try that thing where you go up and down, like in one motion, and pull it up. So you're bringing the thread. No. You're basically doing a U-turn with the thread. That wears your thread out like crazy.
Yeah, I don't like that. That's why I don't do it, because I think it just scrubs the thread. I don't like it.
It does. Yeah. I tried it for a while, and I was like, I don't like what it's doing to the thread. Faster. And it also, but messier.
I think
for me.
I've seen people. I think it is faster over time, but I think that the penalty is not worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
It does mess up your DMC, and forget about silk. I mean.
Oh yeah.
But and then it also changes the consistency of the X's too. I think it kind of pulls them different, and then if you get to an area where you can't do that, you have to do them individually. You can tell the difference. Mm-hmm. I can on my stitching. Yeah. I don't know if other people,
Yeah, and we could get 10 people in a room and argue that all day long, because they'll say, well, it's faster and better. And, so there's no winning, but it's just not a, that's.
And it depends on how tight you pull, and I mean, there's so many variables.
Yeah. Not my technique. Go up and down, up and down.
I did. Yep. I tried it. I even bought one of those needles that has the eye in the middle and two ends.
Oh, how did that go?
To try to do it like that.
I've never heard anybody say that they liked it.
I did not like that. Okay. You know what the problem is mostly? The problem is the needles are too long. They kept the needle the same size on the ends and made the eye big in the middle, so the needle is way too long. They needed to shorten the tips of the needle to keep it shorter. So they needed to maintain the needle length and shorten the tips, the shaft part, and have the eye in the middle.
Yeah.
Because the needle itself overall was too long.
So if you think overall, if it was the same length as a regular needle with the eye in the middle,
I might have liked it better. Yeah. That might have worked, but it was just too long. I'm like, if this was shorter, it could work. And I looked to see if other brands were shorter, and they weren't. They're all the same.
Oh. Because the same factory's making it for everyone.
Probably. But I did try that because I was like, oh, that's cool, No.
Yeah.
No, that didn't work for me either.
I've heard too many people say it didn't work, so I never tried them. I just took people at their word. Yeah. There's a thing, just before we started recording, I was editing a column for the magazine. Mm-hmm. And you don't have this. I didn't send it to you.
Oh, okay.
But the columnist was writing about procrastination, because in factories, and putting things off, and then machinery starts to break down, and pretty soon, by not doing something when you should have, you've cost the company, thousands of dollars an hour for downtime. Yeah,
it costs more in the long run if you waited.
Right, because you put it off for a day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so he was writing that. Dealing with procrastination, strategies for dealing with procrastination. And he says a few that include starting, and using a structure and making a decision now that forces the first step. Mm-hmm. And for example, then he gives an example. I'm a time-structured checklist person, defining the musts and wants of what I plan to accomplish each day based on upcoming events, deadlines, and goals. I typically do the task that is most difficult or that I least look forward to first. This way the day gets better right from the start. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking about that, because we're talking about stitch path, talking about all these things. When it comes to needlework, is that something to take a look at? This is for me a difficult section or a tedious section that I'm going to hate, like on Hannah Longstreth, stitching all these branches. So you do that first and pay the price, and then, or like on needlepoint, you do the background stitches and get them out of the way, or do them do a section first and then do the fun stuff. So it just, as I was reading it, I was thinking, well, same applies to needlework in terms of a plan and a plan of attack. And we talk about stitch path and, and how you go about these things. 'Cause there's no way that there's any project anyone's ever stitched that there wasn't some section that I wish this was over. I just wish this was over.
Yeah.
Or I hate this color, but I know it's got to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, or you have to, some areas you can do and not have to pay super duper attention. In some areas you really need to pay attention, which means you don't do them when you're frustrated.
Yep.
Or angry or anxious or tired.
Yep.
You save those sections for when you're in a good mood. And you tell yourself, you get yourself ready for it. You're like, okay, now you need to do that. And next time you're in a really good mood, you need to tackle this part so you can get it over with. I've done that.
Well, and that's another part of it. Okay, this part I got to concentrate on. So no audiobooks, no music, no TV. Yeah. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get this right the first time. Because if you do it with the TV on or an audiobook or something where your mind is half on the other thing, then how many times do you end up ripping it out? Just save yourself that time. Yeah.
Or you just, for me, it's like I'm not going to hear the audiobook anyway because I'm going to be focused on this. So I'm just going to have to rewind it. So why have it on?
Right. Yeah, that's the other side of that. Yeah, it's the other side of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like when I'm getting a project ready, if it's it depends on how big and difficult the project, some projects, well, some of them, if I'm doing those little monthly things, I already know, I've already decided what I'm doing. And so getting the first piece ready, once you figure that out, the rest of them you just copy.
Yeah.
So I don't have to think as hard,
Yeah.
But if you're getting a new one ready, or back like when I'm quilting, if I'm cutting fabric, there's nothing on. Maybe I'll have on some classical music because that's okay. But I can't have
that's
the TV
interesting.
on,
So you have to fully concentrate when you're cutting pieces for quilts.
Well, just to make sure I don't screw up. Because once you cut the fabric, it's cut.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know what? There may not be any more of that fabric ever again. That may be the only bit you have. You can't get more because the fabric line's out,
Oh, okay.
So with, fabric, it's like, this is what you have because, they may not make that fabric anymore.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I've never done that stuff. So, So and you got to,
you cut it, it's
okay.
cut.
Okay.
So sometimes you have to really, now there are other projects where I'm okay, but some projects, if you're reading out of the book and you really want to get it right, everything's off, nothing else is happening because I'm cutting fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would never, when I was going to class, I would always cut my fabric at home and then just take my sewing machine and sew in the class. I would never do any fabric cutting at the class.
Okay.
Well, I didn't, I never took any of those classes where you did that kind of thing also.
Yeah.
It was more like a get together and stitch at the sewing shop kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did my cutting at home. I got ready. Because all the ladies, I'm telling you, you don't know how many times they're messing up because they're trying to cut at the thing and they get distracted. Then they have to go buy 3 more yards of fabric, which costs a lot of money.
Yeah. Huh.
So, yeah.
Now, see, I have that like at the Fox Needlepoint Guild meetings. A lot of people take when we can actually be in a room with each other.
Right.
We'll take projects and they'll sit there and stitch while the meeting's going on and they're talking to people. I tried that a few times, and finally I just left my stuff at home.
Right.
And just go to the meeting and talk to people because I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
Well, see, that's what you save your basket weave for.
Yeah. See, exactly.
You save your basket weave and your background, or if you know you're going, you outline an area, and then you know that when you're there, you can just fill in.
Yeah. Yeah. So
and talk and stuff, and you know that this whole section here just needs filled in. All I have to do is fill those squares, and I have to look at nothing because I've already done the elements on the inside, whatever.
Yep. Well, that takes planning. That would hurt me.
Well, that's what you do. Like I do plan that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to be on the show and we're going to be talking and I want to stitch. but what can I stitch that I don't have to be focused on the pattern, but I won't screw up?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
they
can't
get
tell you.
something ready.
I can't tell you how many times when we've done a live show and I've stitched.
Uh-huh.
I can't tell you how many times oh man, how could I
I know.
out it comes, start over, might as well not even bothered. Yeah.
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 Well, that was why with on January 1 with the Springhill thing. That's why I didn't even set up to put a camera on my stitching, because there's no way I'm going to start this thing and I'm going to end up tearing it out. And because trying to talk to Karen, and then we had the technical difficulties, and it's like, nope, I'm not going to. I'm not even going to waste the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had mine ready, but I kind of had a feeling, I'm like, we're talking to Karen. So this is going to be a talking to Karen, and it's going to be sitting here, and then I'll start after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I ended up started during, though, because since we had to go off because, it wasn't working. So.
Yeah. Had to kick you and Beth off just to make it work. Yeah.
Like, okay, bye.
Oh, that's the worst. You and I had the one show.
Where my power went out.
Yeah, your power went out, and then
on Christmas.
And then we started the one where YouTube lost its stuff.
Yeah.
And then this time we just had all kinds of sound issues, and you get people lined up, people show up for these things, and you plan them and everything, and you think, just forget it, just turn it off, but you really can't do that. So
yeah, it was the first of the year, and didn't all of you guys had storms?
Yeah. Beth was
Karen
having some
had
bad
a storm,
storms.
and Beth had storms. So and it was the first of the year. So probably, I know a lot of people were scheduling Zooms for that day.
Yeah.
Because I saw a lot of other people that are stitchers and YouTubers had scheduled stuff for that day as well. So, it was a busy day.
Yeah. That's the trouble with doing holiday live shows. Yeah. But, a lot of people were there, so you got to do it. Hey,
okay. It worked out.
We made it work. Yep. You and I have different setups because you're home a lot during the day, and so you're able to stitch. But I'm curious about that, because for me, the stitching I get to do is 3 hours in the evening, and that's it. And you're able to stitch during the day. But do you make a conscious effort to set aside time, or do you just let the day kind of come and go as it does?
I'll just let the day happen, because
figured that.
I have no children. I have to impose structure upon myself, and that is very difficult for me to do.
Okay.
I have a hard time with that. But I do try. It was easier whenever before the pandemic and I had appointments during the week. So I did at least have those goalposts.
Yeah.
And I had more of a structure, but now all structure has been lost. And I'm trying to get structure back, and that's my biggest weakness, I guess.
Okay. Well, do you have
structureless, and I just float around?
Okay. Well, but all right. So then that asks the question then, are you better? Are you a better stitcher in the morning or the afternoon or the evening? I mean, is there a time we say, all right?
It doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't. It doesn't matter for me. Mainly, I mean, I don't get migraines anymore, but sometimes I still get the funky, almost migraine feeling.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling like that, I'll either do some easy stitching or I'll do some knitting or crochet. Or unless I'm really not feeling it, I don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, do you mix up those things throughout the week? I mean, are you doing a mixture of things,
even throughout the day? Because for a while, sitting, when I do the Springhill or any of the needle point ones, I sit at my kitchen chair that has my stand, so I'm sitting more straight, upright and stuff. And I can do that for maybe 3 or 4 hours, and then my lower back on one side starts to kind of hurt. And so then I'm like, okay, I can't sit here anymore. So then I'll go sit in my chair, and then I'll do a different project.
Oh, okay.
So I'll do sometimes 3 or 4 different projects in a day.
Oh, gee.
Because then sometimes I'll do a couple rounds on an Afghan, and maybe I'll do a few rows on some knitting, and then I'll work on one cross stitch, and I'm like, oh, this is getting I don't want to have to follow the pattern this intensely, so let me do this other project where it's much more relaxing. And I will sometimes do 3 or 4 different things. And then, I have to exercise and take care of the hubby and laundry. And...
Yeah, but yeah, that's just it. I mean, those kinds of things are always going to be there. And, but so you're fluid enough. Of course, laundry and stuff, you can throw that in and go back to your stitching. But
exactly.
Yeah. So okay, so you have that where you can do. Yeah. All right. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
When you do that, you can kind of bounce around as you want and do it as you feel, and then for me, it's evening.
Okay.
So 2 or 3 hours in the evening. And then if I'm tired, and of course, I'm staring at a computer all day long. So if my eyes are tired, then, there'll be some nights where I'd say, I know darn well I shouldn't do it because I'll make errors and have to rip things out. So I just don't do it. So I don't have that, and it's, I'm sure that we could have 2 or 3 camps of people if we asked people who are retired and can do that during the day. And then, of course, people who work, and then the evening is your opportunity. And then people who have kids who get an hour after the kids go to bed.
Right.
Everybody has their different situation. But yeah, for me, it's just evenings. And then now this past Saturday, I stitched a long time. There were 3 football games on, and I stitched through probably 2.5 of them.
Oh, nice.
But then Sunday, so I don't know what got into me, but Sunday I did a really hard bike ride, climbed a very high mountain, virtual mountain, and I was drained. And so I kept saying, all right, after this, there were 3 football games. So after this one, all right, I'm going to go stitch. And I was just a vegetable.
Yeah.
I just kind of sat there and watched football and let the day go by and never did do a stitch. I just didn't feel like it. And days like that too, if you just don't feel like it, I don't think it's worth forcing yourself either.
Yeah, no, if I'm feeling off and I feel kind of headachy or whatever, I just won't do it, especially if I have to use magnification. No way, because that'll just makes the eyes even worse.
Yeah, yeah.
So sometimes I'll do something where I don't need magnification, depending on the level of discomfort I'm having. Or I'll switch to work on my crochet or something, which, you're not holding way up to your face and you don't have to look at so intensely.
Yeah.
I'll just do something else like that.
Yeah, I don't have that, and I'm not going to start it either. Oh.
I started crocheting when my sister got pregnant with my nephew, who is 20. So I guess I've been crocheting for 20 years.
Long time.
Maybe 21. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have lots of cousins, and they always if they have a baby, they get a baby blanket.
Oh, okay.
And I've got one that's Prego's, so somebody's getting a baby blanket.
All right.
I'm working on it.
Well, see, that for me, when my recliner is down in the family room, that's where the TV is at, or the biggest TV. And then right behind it is my stitching corner where I'm at when we do the live shows. If I go down the stairs and make a hard left to the stitching corner, then I'm good for the night. But if I go to the recliner and say, all right, I'm going to sit here and for a half hour and then I'm going to go stitch, I bet you 8 times out of the 10, I never get out of that chair.
Yeah, you never make it out.
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny. See, my stitching chair, my comfy chair, which is my chair in the living room, we have a sofa and like a chair and a half. So it's not like a love seat width. It's just like a little bit bigger than a normal chair.
Oh, so I thought it was like a chair with just the legs okay.
No, it's just a slightly wider chair. They call it a chair and a half.
Okay.
So it's not love seat sized. It's biggish. It's bigger than a normal chair.
Okay.
So I have this little pillow that I have there. You've probably seen it in the pictures. It's the pink pillow that sometimes shows around my cross stitch. It's where I prop it up to take pictures because my light's there and I get good light. Mm-hmm. So I've got my little pillow there, and that's where I put I have this little stand that holds up my iPad. So that's where or the stand also can hold up a paper thing. So it's just this little foldy stand that you can buy at like Joann and Michael's. It's like $5. It's this plastic white thing. but it holds the iPad too. And it also holds whatever piece of thread I'm using. So I have, and then my footstool has a couple projects on it. It's got my knitting project. It's got my pandemic. Like, I've got projects all over me. Like, my crochet project is here. I'm surrounded. So all I have to do is reach, and there's the project. I'm looking at 4 projects right now that I can pick from, just sitting here. And then if I go sit in my other chair, I've got 3 over there.
So there's something no matter where you go in the house. Okay.
Yeah. So no matter where I'm sitting, I don't even have to move. I can just be like, what do I feel like working on? I'll work on that. Just start working on it.
Okay, so that's interesting. That's interesting and crazy in its own way. But
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are talking about when you can getting a bigger house because you have a small house.
Yes.
Then what is your plan for that? Is it to have your own room?
Like I said, I have a sewing room.
I know, but you can't get in that either. So
I do sometimes go sit in there and stitch in that chair, but not as often as I could.
yeah.
But I do have a project now. I have a hand quilting applique project set up on the table there. So when I feel like sitting in that room, I work on that project a little.
But is that? Is that the way you just figure you'll end up when you eventually get to a new house, or do you think you'll have a full blown room with a lot of space? And
I want to have a bigger room, like maybe even a whole basement area, like a nice basement, not a yucky basement like we have, like one of those nice finished basements. Yeah. Maybe I have no idea. Who knows? Or a bigger bedroom, because this other one is a bedroom. It's just smaller, and where I can have all my stuff in it. But I will still in my family room where I sit with my husband and watch TV and stuff at night. I'll still have projects there because I don't usually just sit and watch TV. Yeah. I'm usually doing something unless I'm just not feeling good, which is usually a headache problem.
Yeah.
And then I'm not. But that's the only time I usually am not doing anything.
So that's just your nature. See, for me, it's all in one spot. But
oh yeah, no, I have antsy hands, and I've always, even when I was a kid, it would be like coloring books. If I was sitting down watching TV, I usually had my coloring books there, and I was usually coloring while watching TV. Yeah. Which we didn't do that often because my parents were like, "Get outside and play."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We had that too. Yeah, get out of here, go play. Well, that was a different time too. Yeah, you could go outside and play all over the neighborhood and not worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah, it was totally different. But like much. Now, I don't have room in that sewing room for my needlepoint setup.
Okay.
For my chair and the stand. I mean, there is no room. And so that's why it's all set up at the end of the dining room now. So that's a whole nother little corner of the house that is just taken over. My poor husband is like, all of your stuff is going to be in one room. I don't want to see any of it anywhere else.
That was my next question. Was how does your husband feel about this?
Oh gosh, he's just given up. He's like, whatever. He has just given up. He's like, whatever, okay.
Yeah, because it's you see people that move. Pam Tanner is she's a cross stitch, does a lot of samplers and stuff. She just moved; they downsized, and so she was posting that they had apparently have in their new place a big walk-in closet that she is making into her own needlework room. And so you see people that have it, they'll move, or the kids will move out, and here's your opportunity to make your own space, and the opposite of a man cave, I guess it would be. But here's your chance to set everything up the way you want it, storage the way you want it. Talking to Orna Willis, and if you look at some of the pictures on YouTube or on Instagram of her space, now they built a new house here. Over the past couple of years, they built a new house in Philly. Mm-hmm. And she was able to have a giant space with plenty of light and storage and a great big fat table in the middle, and really get what would be of course she's a designer, so she needs more space than you or I need, but to get everything's set up so that she has the space to work and the light to work with, and all of her threads and stuff are stored away or hanging on racks. And so, it's when you get a chance to do that and make your own space, it's really kind of a cool thing. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a pretty good storage system and stuff. It's just I have a lot of stuff, and our house is it's not even 1,300 square feet. It's like 1,292. So it's small.
Right.
And the rooms are small, and I do what I can. But, in my sewing room, I have a card table. It's like the card table size cutting table and it's permanently in there that I sometimes have to slide around if I want to get certain doors of cupboards open all the way.
Yeah.
And I have a smaller ironing board because I can't fit a big one. So IKEA has been my friend.
They are the masters. They are the masters.
I've gotten a lot of this stuff from IKEA.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. They are the masters of getting the maximum out of a space. No doubt about it. Yeah. And good stuff.
It is. Yeah. It is.
It holds up.
I mean, it's good quality stuff. And I love putting together IKEA furniture. Oh, my goodness. That is my favorite thing.
Okay.
It's fun.
More power to you.
It's more building. I like to build, make things. I love it.
Stuff's tedious to me, but the product at the end is worth it. So
it's fun.
Yeah, putting those little fittings in to join the pieces together, and that's all right. I'll pass.
I like doing it.
Yeah. So that's it's just I really enjoy when people have a chance to build their own space and see what they do with it. Because and for a lot of people, it's years and years of trying to keep themselves contained and really not having any good storage, and not being able to spread things out, and forgetting things that they have just because they can't see them. And then they get a chance to build a space and get all the pearl cotton in these drawers and all the DMC in these drawers and all that stuff. And it's just really neat to see. And then people can, and I'm sure the end result is then the whole hobby is just that much more enjoyable because you have some elbow room. Yeah.
You know where everything is. You don't have to move stuff to get stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try really hard now. I'm really working on keeping my cutting table as clutter free. Like I'm working on, when I'm done with something, put it away where it belongs. Like, when I got my linen for the Springhill, it was a bigger piece than what I really needed. So I cut off what I didn't need and folded it up, and then I put it away instead of just piling it on the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really, and I've always been a put it away, but because I have to move the ironing board out in order to open the door of the cupboard.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get lazy because I'm just like in a hurry or whatever. And I'm like, no.
That's when the piles start. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So I'm really focusing again on put it where it belongs from the beginning so you don't end up with a big mess. So when you do want to get at your cutting board to cut something or whatever, it's available and you don't have to clean before you start.
Right. Right. And that's how it's so funny because that happens every time. This skein should get put away. Mm-hmm. But I'll just flip it down here. I'll put it away later. Or this piece of linen, it should be marked, put in a bag, and put away now. Mm-hmm. And then 2 days later, the pile is doubled. Yeah. And then what was that piece? Oh man, I should have written that down. And and there you are. Yeah. And then the end result is an hour or more of your stitching time is sucked up, just getting yourself back together, and then that's frustrating.
You're frustrated, then you don't want to do it anymore. So then you just go sit down. You're like,
sit down and pout.
Now. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. And you're right. Yeah. Take the 2 minutes to put it away properly. Mm-hmm. And
so I've been working on that because I used to be really good at it, and then I got a little lazy.
Yep.
So I'm working on doing that again because it makes me feel better just in general.
Yeah. And mark that linen so you know what it is. Yeah.
I leave mine, usually a lot of times they'll have like a sticker, something they stick on. So I'll move the sticker onto the piece.
Yes.
Or if it doesn't, usually there's a marking that they have on it already that I'll put on the piece.
Yeah.
So I know what it is.
Right. Now, okay, so that's something, because Beth wrote to me a text the other day. wondered if I did bullet journals. And
Okay.
I know what bullet journals are, but
I
she was
don't.
saying, it's, huh?
I don't. What is that?
Oh, I
Just
think
a journal
the
with,
way I
like,
understand
a
it is
list?
it's a journal that rather than writing paragraphs, you just make bullet point statements.
Oh, okay. Right.
So it's quick, so that you're, I guess, more inclined to do it. And I don't do like a diary or any of that journals.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at that stuff. But
I've tried, and
yeah.
I like the idea. It just doesn't work for me.
Right. Yeah. I never, usually, oh yeah, 2 weeks ago I was the last entry. But she was suggesting that as a way of keeping track of your projects. And so that was pretty intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Because you just sit down and write down, and like I'm using GoodNotes now I use GoodNotes a lot for a lot of things. And so then I have a Fiber Talk folder of stuff. And so to start that, that might not be a bad idea. And because, those things you forget, like this project, this project has this linen, and where is that linen? I know I bought it. And so make a note, but I know I'll never do it.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much, well, I just did that WIPGO thing, the WIPGO board.
Right.
Which basically...
See, that organized you, though.
It listed down all my whips. And some of them are repeated, because then I ran out of whips. So I just repeated some, especially the ones that are the monthly things like the cottages or the flowers or the chickens.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so that kind of...
So that's kind of
the whips to the fore, and I will at some point work on them all this year because they're on the WIPGO board, which means they're going to get touched.
Yeah, I mean, there's a plus there. I mean, now you have a visual accounting of what is on the board or on the table to be worked on.
Right.
So there's some real plus to that, rather than just there's 3 things in a pile and you forget about the bottom 2.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think there's some merit to it. I'm just terrible at keeping that stuff up. So. Yeah,
and I'm not good at the journaling thing, but I thought this WIPGO thing could work.
Yeah.
Because it's, she ended up pulling 3 numbers because she pulled that center space, which is the free one, which just happened to be Springhill on my board. And I was like, well, I'm just starting that, so that's just perfect. So, okay, so that WIPGO thing, so then somebody is like bingo, where they're pulling a number and then you go work on that thing. Right. Whatever you've put in that square, that's what you have to work, whatever your goal is. You set your own goal. Mm-hmm. And my goal is 1 hour a day for 7 days. So at least, say I want to work really bad on Springhill, but I'm supposed to do the chickens, so I'll do at least an hour on the chicken, which it's chickens. You can get a lot done in the chickens on an hour. And then I can put it down and go work on Springhill. Okay, so there's a discipline to it there. Okay, you're sticking to the WIPGO thing, but some days just the minimum so you can get on to what you really want to work on. Right. But then at least that your monthly chicken designs, whatever those are called, at least they're making some progress. Right, the Coop Almanac. Coop Twin Almanac? Peak Primitives. Yep, Twin Peak Primitives. Okay, they're cool. Yeah, aren't they cute? I finished a January one. I haven't ironed it and taken a picture of it, but I finished it a couple days ago. Yeah, there's a project for people if you're looking for a project. Because those chickens are pretty cool. So it's Twin Peak Primitives, and it's called what? Mm-hmm. Coop Almanac. Coop Almanac, okay. Chicken coop, Coop Almanac. Yeah, I got that it's part. Really cute. It's a PDF download. You can get it online at Twin Peak Primitives. Okay. So, because I like those. So, all right. So but I think that the greater gain with that WIPGO thing is the fact that you have an accounting of live projects. Right. I know what all my whips are. Yeah. And even if say I can look at one and go, I really feel like working on that. So I can make that kind of a main project, even though it didn't get pulled up on my WIPGO. Yeah. And then still do whatever the other WIPGOs are. And then just when its turn comes up, just work on it. You don't have to wait. Right. Right. But it'll force you to work on it when the number comes up. Yeah. It gives some structure. Yeah. Right. At least a little bit. And you might be like, then you might be so close. Like I have one that's on there. All I have to do is an E on the end of welcome. Just have to do the E, and I haven't done it in like a year and a half since I discovered it in my cross stitch bin.
Uh-huh.
I found it, and I'm like, look at that! I didn't even know I was doing that. Look,
why didn't I finish that? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's in there. It'll get finished at some point.
Okay, when it comes up on the board, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It'll probably take me 2 days, you know?
Yeah. That's just interesting because you've been going with that thing. So it'll be interesting to check back, say, in June and see how you're doing with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done the chicken portion. So I'm kind of giving myself, since the month, divide it into the 1 to 15 and 15 to 30. And so from 1 to 15, I'm sure I can get 7 days in of 1 hour of whatever project.
Yeah.
And then at the 15th, I'll switch to the next project. And this month it's going to be those the Christmas berries by Erica Michaels.
Oh, uh-huh.
The 12 berries, and I've done the first 3. I haven't finished them fully, but I've stitched them.
Okay.
They're sitting in I have a little basket on my sewing table that's quickly stacking up with cross stitches that need to be fully finished. Which I'm completely capable of doing, but haven't done.
Yeah.
And I still did not finish those Christmas things that I was supposed to finish that are in the basement. Yeah.
Oh, well.
I'm bad.
Yep.
See, now there's some discipline I need. I need discipline for fully finishing things.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even care about that once it's done. When I get it done.
See, I want them out, though. I want them to, I want them.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in the basket, not getting done.
Yeah. That's when my level of care goes completely away. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like with Hannah Longstreth now, Marga's anxious for me to have that done because I think she has a spot on the wall and wants it framed, and it will look very cool. But once it's done, that's her problem.
She'll take care of that part, right?
Yep. Yeah. I really simply don't care. Yeah.
She'll take it to the framer and all the stuff.
Just don't care.
You'll be like, here it is. Bye.
Yep. I got other things to work on.
Uh-huh.
Yep. All right. I think we'll call it. That's going to be enough. Yep. Okay, so tonight, Orna Willis, join us 8 o'clock Eastern on the YouTube channel, the Fiber Talk YouTube channel, 8 o'clock Eastern. Orna Willis. Sunday, our guest is Lori Markovic, La-Di-Da Designs.
Ooh,
Fun conversation with Lori.
La-Di-Da's cute.
Yep, La-Di-Da. So that's coming up Sunday, so don't miss that. And as always, the best way to get the Fiber Talk podcast is to do a podcast app. You can do them on YouTube. You can do them on the website at wetalkfiber.com. But fire up that podcast app. There's one on everybody's phone. Subscribe, and then they get downloaded automatically. You don't have to think about it, and then they're right there for when you go for a walk or in the car or stitch or whatever you're doing. So it's a good way to do it, except Jenifer would rather watch the video. So whatever.
I do prefer the YouTube, but
everybody has their way. There's 3 different ways to get them. So, Yep. All right. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Bye.